Fucking
Look at
6 for 24. Look at me, 2 for 10.
Damn.
He was there for us. We gave it to him in the post multiple times. He made the right play multiple times, over and over again. And we get on him about crashing from the top, but today he crashed from the top for a big bucket that we needed. So, big shout out, for sure.
What happens when a 2-time MVP meets a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year? The Nuggets-Timberwolves series wasn't just a clash of titans, it was a chess match that turned the NBA playoffs upside down. The Nuggets vs. Wolves series was the one basketball fans had been eagerly anticipating all season long. Why? Because it pitted two powerhouses against each other. Denver's offensive juggernaut led by Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, and Minnesota's defensive fortress anchored by Rudy Gobert. But here's the million-dollar question: how do you stop an offense that seems unstoppable? The Wolves had to find an answer, and fast. One key player who made a huge difference this time around was Jaden McDaniels. Remember, he missed last year's playoffs due to injury, and his return meant Jamal Murray was in for a tough time. Murray's usual diet of smooth jumpers and crafty finishers at the rim? Well, McDaniels was there to make every bite as unappetizing as possible. Now, let's talk about the big man in the middle, Rudy Gobert. The Wolves had a clear strategy: keep Gobert near the rim at all costs. Why? Because with the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year lurking in the paint, even the most potent defenses start to second-guess themselves. But wait, wouldn't that leave someone open on the perimeter? Well, yes, the Wolves were willing to live with that, especially when it came to Aaron Gordon. Gordon's 3-point shooting isn't exactly a strong suit, hovering around 30% on open looks. So, the Wolves dared him to beat them from outside. This strategy completely threw a wrench in the Nuggets' usual offensive flow. Jamal Murray, one of the league's most dynamic guards, is running a pick-and-roll. Normally, this would be a nightmare for defenses, but with Gobert camping out in the paint, Murray found himself running into a brick wall more often than not. But here's where it gets interesting. How did the Nuggets try to pull Gobert away from his comfort zone near the basket? They got creative. One tactic they employed was taking Jokic away from the ball and instead running their 2-man game with Gordon as the screener. Sounds smart, right? Well, not quite. Gobert, being the defensive mastermind he is, simply dropped back, knowing Gordon was only a threat to roll to the rim. This left Murray with a packed paint to navigate, and suddenly, those easy buckets weren't so easy anymore. But the Nuggets had more tricks up their sleeve. They tried putting the ball in Gordon's hands up top to draw Gobert out. They even had Jokic start with the ball at the top of the key, using Gordon as a decoy. These strategies had some success, but the Wolves' defense was relentless. One particular clever counter from the 2023 series resurfaced. The Nuggets would set up a Gordon pick-and-roll, but instead of Jokic spotting up, he would set up a second screen on his own man inside the arc. This gave Murray an easier path to a mid-range jumper, a shot he's quite comfortable with. Another tactic involved clear outs for Jokic to attack Towns in isolation. While Towns had size and strength to bother Jokic, he had one fatal flaw: his tendency to foul. As Jokic battled with him repeatedly, Towns often found himself in foul trouble, forcing the Wolves to get Gobert the Jokic assignment, especially late in games. The Nuggets also employed inverted pick-and-rolls. When Gobert tried to go under these screens, it left too much room for a long-range jumper. If the screener's man tried to step in front, the Nuggets would slip the screen, once again creating good looks at the rim. Here's a question to wonder: what happens when an elite offense is forced to rely on tough shot making? Well, that's exactly what the Wolves wanted to find out. All these adjustments were about one thing: opening up the paint. When Gobert was on Jokic, he couldn't sit back because of the shooting threat. But if he stepped up, the rest of the Nuggets' offense could punish even the slightest defensive mistake. Most importantly, these tactics opened up Denver's lethal 2-man game. When Murray came off a screen, Gobert had to respect Jokic as a scoring threat, which meant he couldn't step in front of Murray. But if he did step up to Murray, someone better be in a position to take away Jokic's deadly floater. Now, let's talk about the big Serbian in the room, Nikola Jokic. The Wolves knew they couldn't completely shut down the 2-time MVP, but they could make life difficult for him. Their secret weapon, Karl Anthony Towns. Towns had the size, strength, and length to give at least Jokic some trouble. But there was one problem: Towns' tendency to get into foul trouble. This forced the Wolves to give Gobert the Jokic assignment, especially in crucial late-game situations. The Nuggets had strategies to attack the matchup. They ran inverted pick-and-rolls, forcing Gobert to make tough decisions. If he went under the screen, Jokic had open jumpers. If he tried to hedge, the Nuggets could slip the screen for easy buckets at the rim. But here's the thing, even when Jokic got his numbers, the Wolves' defense made sure it came at a cost. Every possession was a battle, and that relentless pressure started to take its toll as the entire series wore on. On the other side of the ball, the Nuggets had their hands full with Anthony Edwards. Remember, this wasn't the same wing defense that the Suns had in their series. Instead of Grayson Allen and Bradley Beal, Edwards faced tougher matchups with Cantavius, Caldwell Pope, and Aaron Gordon. As the series progressed, an interesting battle developed between Jokic and Gobert. In Game 5, the Nuggets managed to get Gobert switched onto Jokic, and the results were devastating. Jokic cooked, scoring 20 points in just 10 scoring attempts when guarded by Gobert. But the Wolves made a crucial adjustment in the final 2 games. Instead of switching, they had Towns go under screens to stay with Jokic. This kept Gobert off ball as a roamer, playing the possession on Minnesota's terms. The result? Jokic had just 6 total scoring attempts when guarded by Gobert in the last 2 games. The Wolves were willing to concede open threes to Jokic and Murray, betting on their defense and the fatigue factor. It was a risky strategy, but it paid off. Jokic and Murray, who had been hitting 47% of their open threes in their postseason careers, shot just 4 of 18 on wide-open triples in the last 2 games. And let's not forget about Jaden McDaniels and Mike Conley. Their length and quickness nullified many of Denver's cutting actions, which are usually so effective. Here's a mind-blowing stat for you. The Wolves' defensive rating was nearly 2 points better in this series than in the regular season. Against the defending champions in the playoffs, let that sink in. But here's where it gets really interesting. The Wolves' defense wasn't just about getting stops, it was about generating easy offense for them, especially in crucial moments. After a defensive stop, Minnesota's offensive rating skyrocketed from 121 in the regular season to 128 against Denver. Their defense truly was their best defense. This was particularly evident in their incredible second-half comeback in Game 7. Time and again, they got stops and turned them into transition opportunities, catching the Nuggets off guard. While the stars shone bright, this series was also about the role players stepping up. Karl Anthony Towns had what might have been the best game of his life in Game 7. He made huge shots when the Wolves' half-court offense was struggling and did an admirable job banging with Jokic in the post. And how about Naz Reid? The 6th man of the year came in and dominated the final 5 minutes of Game 7, proving that the Wolves' depth was a crucial factor in outlasting the Nuggets. As the series wore on, it became clear that the Wolves' size, length, and depth were wearing down the Nuggets. Minnesota always had 2 true big men on the floor, and their relentless defensive pressure seemed to wear down Denver's offensive firepower. In the end, while their half-court offense might still need some work, the Wolves' historically great defense proved to be the difference maker. They found a way to slow down one of the most potent defenses in NBA history and knocked off the defending champions. The Timberwolves' offensive masterclass against the Nuggets shows that in basketball, a great defense can indeed beat a great offense. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button and subscribe for more in-depth NBA analysis.